I thought I'd make a little 10-minute stretch video because I know some of you have been asking for some stretches. So here is just some mid upper back stretches. A lot of the stretching that I do, if I do it, which we all should, at least a couple times a week, it's worth having like a 2 times 30 minute stretch session, or like 10 minutes every day also is great. So often I'll use the mobility warm up that we do as my stretchy time. Now, if someone really has something that's tight and that really needs working on, a lot of the time it isn't stretching that's necessarily going to help, but it was either like some mobility work, it might be stability work, and it's stuff that we try and incorporate into sessions. A lot of the time also it's gaining strength, um and and really just working on the flexibility, mobility, stability, and then tension of building strength. But it is obviously useful to stretch, and lifting weights can make you slightly feel quite tight. And so movement is key. Walking, blood flow, water, and taking up something like Pilates and yoga is also going to be helpful in some regards. But how many hours in a day does one have? It's why we did think about putting mobility sessions within lift, but then like actual 30 hour sessions, but then it takes away from peak time hours for actually getting strong. So it's really difficult, and it's to know what's optimal. Strength for a lot of people will be key. So taking 10 minutes a day to do something like what I'm doing in this video might be helpful to you. It might help you feel like you're opening up. Like for me, getting rotations in my spine is definitely useful, making sure that my shoulder blades get movement, and that will also work down through like the traps, the shoulder blades, the lats here, which I'm stretching through with this stretch here. And you can take any of these movements, and like if I'm kind of wanting to warm up my tendons and joints, and get a bit of blood flow to them, I'll work through it quickly, a little bit like we do in our mobility warm up. But if I want a bit more of a stretch, I still generally won't passive stretch and just sit and hold into stretches for 30 minutes, but I might do like a 5 to 10 second hold. So if you take all these moves and did them for like 5 to 10 seconds, then you might have a slightly longer stretch routine. So here is getting like a real nice stretch through the QLs, so like the side of your core, and also your shoulder blades. Make sure that you spend some time breathing. Don't stop breathing. Really breathe through the stretches. Open up. Go to your own ability as well. Like, don't try and push past anything into pain. Just go to where you can go. And sometimes, if you do, each rep at like, so here that was 3 on each side, you could also do 5 on each side, you could do 10 on each side, you could do 1 and hold it for a bit longer. But if you're doing a couple reps, each time you open up, you could try and get a little bit further. So every time I then push through my thoracic, the upper thoracic spine area here, I will try and get a little bit deeper. Some exercises I'll repeat a little bit just because I might need to feel it a little bit more elsewhere. And just take your time. For sure, when I first got into lifting, I definitely had tight hips. One of the exercises that I would do for my tight hips would be this here. Excuse me. It can feel slightly uncomfortable again, so you sort of go to where you can go and then sit into it a little bit deeper. I got my mobility within my squats to be so much better than it was. I couldn't, I really couldn't squat deep at all when I first started squatting. And so I spent 10 years not stretching, but doing mobility. And there's a lot of chat around mobility, stability, dependent on, who you might speak to. But honestly, I am not a professional at mobility work. I'm not a physio and I'm not trained in that. But I spent 10 minutes a day doing this kind of thing and making sure that I always did that little mobility setup, something like that, before I trained. And over a good couple year period, my mobility within my hips really changed. That helped by getting stronger in my hamstrings, lengthening through those hamstrings, not necessarily by stretching, but also getting stronger in my pelvic floor area and my core, but flexible too, by just keeping movement and adding a routine in consistently, like not just stretching once a month or oh, I did stretch, like I did a yoga class once this whole program. It's much more about consistency. So I don't want anyone to stress about needing to do anything uberly professional and crazy, but focus on really, at least to start with, just taking either 10 minutes a day or 3 20-minute times a week or 2 30-minute times a week, to just more getting to the headspace and sit into some movements that might feel a little bit tight and get some relief. But static stretching, sorry, I think I said passive earlier. I meant I do passive stretching. I don't do static stretching. Static stretching, where you just sit and sit into a stretch, might not work because then your muscles just return back. So just be aware that a lot of the time it isn't just static stretching that we actually need. It might be a bit of physio work, mobility work, and getting stronger in our weak spots. So I know that I have weak rhomboids in between my shoulder blades. I know that getting stronger through my rear delts, getting stronger hip flexors, is all actually part of what I might need or may have needed, more so than I needed static stretching when I needed more hip mobility for my squats. I'm talking over this to start now. I've gone through like upper back, mid back, hips, glutes, hammies, quads. There was a chest stretch, but I feel like I've missed it out. Back bend. This is just me trying to get better bendy back. But you can mute this after you've listened to this one time and just play your own music to it. Enjoy.